Chapter 10, Debunking Common Myths about Step 1. There's a lot of misinformation out there about Step 1, and this chapter sets the record straight. What I'll do is I'll debunk some common myths, like the idea that you need to study more than 12 hours a day or finish 100% of UWorld to pass. You'll learn what really matters in your preparation and how to avoid falling into common traps. So, in this What to Expect, a breakdown of the most common misconceptions about Step 1, why it's important to study smart, not hard, and how to prioritize high yield strategies for studying and avoid unnecessary stress that's not going to help you at all. The world of Step 1 preparation is filled with advice, resources, and strategies, some of which can be overwhelming or misleading, whether from your peers, online forums, third-party companies, people like me. You'll likely come across a bunch of various myths that may lead you down the wrong path if you don't know how to approach them critically. So myth 1, you need to master every subject. One of the most persistent myths is the idea that you need to master every single subject on the Step 1 outline to pass Step 1. While it's true that Step 1 covers a broad range of topics, it's more important to focus on mastering high yield content than trying to learn everything. And there really isn't like a thing as like high yield content. It's just stuff that you will likely get tested on. The reality is, Step 1 emphasizes application over rote memorization. You don't need to know every detail of every subject, but you do need to know how to apply key concepts to clinical scenarios. Focus on mastering high yield areas like biochemistry, pharmacology, biostats, and general principles. These areas form the backbone on every exam and will give you the most return for your investment. So what do? You do what we talked about. You use practice exams, you use question blocks, you identify your strong points and your weak areas, you allocate more time to mastering the weak areas, and just don't get bogged down in trying to learn obscure facts, right? Just put it into the formula that we talked about with our crib sheets and our Anki decks and our clinical clues, and apply that with your practice questions and just rinse and repeat every day. Myth 2, all study resources are created equal. Many students fall into this trap of believing that all study resources are just equally as helpful. This leads to this temptation that like you need to use everything available. Pathoma, First Aid, Sketchy, Boards and Beyond, Amboss, UWorld, so on and so on. However, not all resources are the same. They aren't as equally effective for everyone. And piling these things on can actually just slow down your progress. And so for me personally, I started to just trim the fat and just use only one or two. The reality is, the value of your resources depends on how well it aligns with your learning style and your needs. Some resources are better than others. So content review, Pathoma for pathology, sure. While others are better for test practice, like UWorld. And so if we're taking a test, you want to practice the test, not review the content. Simply using all these available things just won't be necessary for you because that's not what you need. And it can lead to being confused and overwhelmed because there's only so much time in the day. So what do? Pick a few high quality resources and stick with them. UWorld is great for primary question banks, and Anki and crib sheets are great for review. Supplement with Pathoma or First Aid if you need to, but don't feel like you're obligated to, because everything's just a tool. It's about quality, not quantity. Myth 3, you need to do 100% of UWorld to pass the exam. There's this widespread belief that you must complete every single question on UWorld, often multiple times, to pass Step 1. While UWorld is an essential tool, you don't need to finish it 100%. You don't need to see every single question just to succeed, because you're probably not going to see every single question on the exam. The reality is, it's more important for you to focus on understanding the reasoning behind the question, especially the ones you got wrong, and reviewing your weak areas than completing every single question. You won't know what you don't know, but it is also a good thing to know the things that you've seen. Many students waste time just rushing through questions just to hit 100% completion without spending the time of actually reviewing and learning from their mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're just bound to repeat them. So, what do? You focus on quality over quantity. Aim to complete substantial portion of UWorld, but prioritizing the learning of it based off of the ones you get wrong. It's not about how many you do in a day, it's about how many days you do them. So use your crib sheets, use your Anki to reinforce those concepts and ensure you truly understand the material rather than just rushing through the question bank just to say that you did it. And me personally, I went through the question bank probably about 3 times. So I knew I did so many questions that I knew when a new question was added to the question bank, and I knew when an old one was being removed, because when they would say new questions to do, it would say 1 because I did them all. And the first time, it didn't help me too much because I didn't pass. I saw improvement, but I didn't pass. And when I changed that approach, that's what made the difference for me. Myth 4, you have to study 12 plus hours a day, every single day. It's easy to assume that the more time you spend studying, the better your chances are at passing STEP. However, overstudying can lead to burnout, reduced retention, and poor mental health, making it harder for you to perform well on an actual exam. And people often just feel stuck. And so you don't want that. The reality is, studying effectively is more important than studying for long hours. You don't get brownie points for clocking in more hours. The brain needs time to rest and recover, especially during intense study periods like dedicated. So working 12 plus hours a day without breaks can lead to just diminished returns in general for anything, where the quality of the studying just decreases drastically because you don't have enough to give. And so what do? Focus on structured study sessions, like a Pomodoro technique. So starting with 45 minutes on, taking a 15-minute break, and maintaining that focus and productivity. Limit your daily study time to 8 to 10 hours, including breaks. So take at least 1 day off per week and try to rest and recover. Myth 5, you should spend weeks on content review before doing practice questions. Many students believe that they should spend the first few weeks of dedicated just reviewing content, right? From resources like First Aid, Pathoma, Sketchy, before even doing practice questions. However, this approach often just leads to just wasted time and a false sense of preparation. The reality is, step 1 is about application, not memorization. You learn how to apply content by doing practice questions, not by passively reading or watching videos. Waiting too long to start UWorld or NBME practice exams can leave you unprepared for the style of questions that you're going to see on the exam. And so the sooner you start, the better off you are. So what do? Start doing practice questions early, even if you don't feel ready. Use tutor mode, especially in UWorld, because it allows you to learn as you go and incorporate content review only when you need to fill in those gaps of knowledge. Practice exams should also be used throughout your dedicated period to gauge your progress and adjust your study plan. These are all tools to help get you to the finish line. And so don't feel like you need to hold off on one thing before you do another thing. You can do all of them at the same time. Myth number 6, the exam will focus mostly on cardio, pulmonary, and renal. It's common to hear that step 1 is heavily weighted towards certain subjects like cardio, pulmonary, renal. While these subjects are important, step 1 covers a broad range of topics, and you can't really rely on these areas to carry you through the exam. The reality is, step 1 tests general principles across multiple organ systems and emphasizes biostats, biochem, communication skills, ethics, and integrating these concepts. Relying too heavily on one subject like cardio, pulmonary, or renal can lead to being unprepared for other high yield things. And so if you're not thinking about biochemistry, if you're not thinking about neuro, if you're not thinking about general principles, if you're not thinking about histology or pharmacology, you're going to get caught slipping. And so what do? Use the NBME Step 1 official content outline as a guide to ensure you're covering all your major areas and the content distribution that they publish every single year for that year's exams. Make sure your study plan includes a balanced focus of all these subjects across all the different organs, and prioritize general principles and subjects like biochem and communications, because those will get you through the exam in ways that you've never probably seen before. Now it's time to turn the fat. Myth 1, Master every subject. Yeah, no. You're not trying to win Jeopardy. Stick to the high yield hitters, general principles, pharmacology, biochem. You'll get way more bang for your buck if you just do that. Myth 2. Use all the resources available. Wrong again. Too many tools will have you drowning in content. UWorld, Anki, use your crib sheets, are all the things that you actually need. Keep it simple and keep it sharp. Myth number 3. You need to finish 100% of UWorld. You don't get brownie points for completion. Focus on why you missed the questions and learn from them. It's not about the numbers, it's about the understanding. Myth number 4. Studying 16 hours a day will get you through. Let me stop you right there. 8 to 10 hours of focused studying is all you need. Burnout is real, and it'll wreck you if you push it too hard. Myth number 5. Skip questions until later. Content review is king. Bad move. Dive into practice questions early and often. Content review is nice, but the real game is learning how to answer questions because that is what STEP actually is. 280 questions over 8 hours. Myth number 6. Over-focus on big systems. Nothing against cardio, pulmonary, and renal. They're important, but step 1 covers everything. Balance your time so you don't get blindsided on the test day with things that you are not strong at, like biochem. Bottom line, stop trying to be a hero. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being efficient. Focus on high-yield content, use the right tools, and don't waste time on myths that'll just throw you off track. So keep your eyes on the prize, and let's get past STEP. Now that we've cut through the noise, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. In the next chapter, I'll break down the final steps of your dedicated preparation, from nailing your last 2 weeks to conquering the exam day like a pro. So let's finish strong. Thanks for checking this out. This is USMLE Step 1000, created by me, Stephen Christian, a space where you can turn your Step 1 prep into something smarter, sustainable, and stress-free. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. You can follow us on Spotify for more study tips and more audio podcast stuff, Instagram at USMLE Step 1000, and you can like the Facebook page to stay connected. Don't forget to download all the resources, all the Anki decks, the clinical clues, everything from the PDFs and everything that you saw in the videos you can find at www.step1000.com. And follow the blog for more updates as well at www.usmlestep1000.com, your one-stop shop for everything Step 1000. And if you like what I'm doing here and you want to follow or at least support, you can check me out on social media at Stuck on an Island. Thanks again, and I look forward to sharing more stuff about Step 1 prep and how to overcome these mental hurdles so that you can have the best possible experience possible. So again, I'm not going to hold you any longer, but remember, let's keep pushing forward, one step at a time, to 1000.